All right, welcome to Fanatics Football, the football segment of the Fantasy Fanatics Podcast. I'll be your host once again, James, and I'm joined once again by Nate and the return of Mete. What's up, guys?
Hey,
So
Mete, man, it's good to have you back. Nate and I have been sort of pulling this thing along, and it's great to have you back.
yeah, thanks. I'm excited to be back.
All right, let's just get into some NFL news first of all, before we jump into our review over our top 12 running backs for fantasy football this coming season. So, in the NFL, Alex Smith announced his retirement after 16 years in the NFL. Of course, he went through that crazy rehab just to get back. And then he played one more year after that. And I mean, he had mixed results, but I think overall he had a great career. I'll start with you, Nate. What are some of your thoughts on Alex Smith?
I think he's a great quarterback. I feel like if he didn't have that injury trouble, he probably would have been able to extend his career by a couple of years. But I guess he decided it's kind of time to hang it up. He doesn't want to beat up his body anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he had a great career. I know watching him early with the 49ers, and then playing almost at MVP level with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then he sort of finished off his career in Washington. Mete, I just wanted to ask you, I guess just your overall take on Alex Smith and just like the way his career went.
I think Alex Smith was pretty good. Like he wasn't the best, but he wasn't the worst either. So, and before his injury, actually, I think the Redskins at the time were 6-2. So that was pretty unlucky for them when he went out. And yeah, he's had a pretty good career, I think.
Yeah, I think one of the more impactful things he's done for the game of football was sort of mentor now the star of the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. And I guess just that first year that Mahomes was in Kansas City, Alex Smith was sort of the starter there, sort of led him along. He sort of prepared him, I guess, to be a quarterback in the NFL. And then Patrick Mahomes just really took it from there and just really became a star. So, yeah, I think that Alex Smith's had a huge impact on the league. Obviously, coming back from that almost, it should have been a career-ending injury. It didn't end up being that just because he fought through it. Came back. He actually played. He actually started for a lot of games in the 2020 season. Led Washington to the playoffs. So, I mean, I know they've said that the comeback player of the year should be named after Alex Smith. I think we can agree that that should be the case.
Yeah, after going through a season-ending injury and coming back, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean Alex Smith. I know as a Patriots fan, games against Kansas City were always tough over the years. When he played for the 49ers, he was always a star. I guess they decided to move on from him when Kaepernick came in, but yeah, he was always that quarterback that was always giving you consistent play. And Mete, I think you could probably agree with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and just moving into some next news there. Mike Tomlin agrees to a 3-year extension, head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He'll be there through the 2024 season. It's his 15th straight year with the Steelers. He's never had a record below 500 in his entirety with the Steelers. So, Mete, I want to ask you first. Is this a good signing, and do you think he can get Pittsburgh over the top?
Definitely. I really like Mike Tomlin, actually. Like you said, he's never been below 500, so he's always had winning seasons. And I think he was the youngest coach to win a Super Bowl, 2008, I think, when they won. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
pretty
pretty
cool
good.
as well. Yeah, I think he's
Yeah,
a good coach.
yeah, I can agree with that. And I guess just getting to you, Nate. I know that this year started off well for Pittsburgh. Things just sort of went downhill from there. You're a Cleveland fan. You guys beat the Steelers in the first round of the playoffs. after that sort of tumble that happened for Pittsburgh. Do you think that they can bounce back this season with Tomlin as their head coach? I personally like Tomlin as a coach. I think he's one of the or top 10 best coaches in the league right now. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
I feel like Pittsburgh, in terms of personnel, isn't the same as what they were back during, I guess, the start of Mike Tomlin's really long run. But you can't really count the Steelers out.
Yeah, I think he always puts them in a position to compete every single year, especially that year in 2019 where he was just going through many different quarterbacks, whether it's Duck Hodges, Mason Rudolph, all of that. And he still put up at least a 500 record in that season too. So I feel like all of the struggles on the team haven't really been the majority of them haven't been Mike Tomlin's fault. I know there's been like issues in the locker room and stuff, but I feel like he's that kind of guy that can just fix things. And yeah, an interesting fact: Pittsburgh, in their entirety of their existence, have only had three head coaches. They've been around since '69.
That's crazy.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So Pittsburgh's as consistent as can be. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin have been their only coaches. So yeah, pretty impressive to say the least. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great run that continues for Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. But yeah, let's just get to the next point of the news. And I know I believe we touched on it briefly last week, Nate. I'm not 100% sure, but let's just touch on it again. If so, the Browns signed Jadeveon Clowney to a 1-year deal worth $10 million. And then right after that, they released defensive tackle Sheldon Richardson. Um, I guess probably to clear cap space. But Nate, what are your thoughts on these two moves?
Um, I do like adding Jadavion Clowney, but I wish there was a way to kind of hold on to Sheldon Richardson. I know there is going to be maybe some kind of cap issues, maybe like later on down the line, but I don't know. I feel like there should have been a way to kind of um, just somehow hold on to him for at least another year.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. Always extra players on the line are pretty necessary when it comes to injuries, when it comes to other things. But Nate, let me just ask you. I don't know. Do you see a landing spot for Richardson? I know we were talking about it earlier, and you mentioned Dallas Cowboys could be a landing spot. Do you think he's a good fit for Dallas, or do you think there's any other landing spots for Richardson?
I feel like Richardson's the kind of player that he could probably fit into any system, especially based on his skill set and how he's able to get a lot of sacks. I think he was third in on the Browns for sacks. So you can always use a guy like Sheldon Richardson on your team.
And then Mete, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with Nate. Like he said, he actually gets good pass pressure, and usually defensive tackles don't get many sacks, but he's pretty good at it, and he's also a pretty good run stopper. So I agree with him.
Yeah, I know Cleveland was very excellent when it came to their pass rush and their run stopping last season. I guess just looking at Richardson's cap, it was a pretty big number. It was like I think it was like 12.6 million for the year, and then it ends up saving the Browns 11 million in cap space for that cut. So it was pretty much just the roster move that needed to happen to sort of keep to bring in Clowney, but um I don't know. Apparently, they said it wasn't really necessary, that they could have held on to both. So, Nate, I guess they'll have to address whatever other needs they have on the line in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they'll be able to. Um, I don't think they'll get like one player that can replace him, but maybe they can get like a couple of guys that can kind of emulate what he does on the line.
Yeah, for sure. I think we can definitely agree with that. And I know definitely we'll touch on the draft a lot more in next week's episode. But Moving on now, let's just get to our top 12 running back rankings for half point PPR for the 2021 fantasy season. Mete, it's great to have you for this ranking because we want to get your thoughts on where you see running backs going in the draft this year. It's sort of another early look at this. Um, Actually, Mete, I'll definitely start with you on this so I can get your thoughts. Who are your top three in your running back rankings, and just sort of explain why, like your thoughts on why you have them there.
So I have Derrick Henry at number one. He's the best running back in the league, so I think he deserves that spot. And I'm seeing a lot of videos of him working out on his route running and pass catching, which is something he's not great at. But if he can improve that, like this guy is definitely number one for sure. And then my second running back is Christian McCaffrey. He's like the complete package. He'll catch passes, he can run. He's great. He was carrying the Panthers offense for a couple of years now. And my third running back, I have Dalvin Cook. He had a great year last year, and I think he can improve and get even better. So I think that's my top three right now.
All right. And yeah, I actually like that analysis on Derrick Henry. I know a lot of people have chosen to drop him out of their top three, myself included. But like you said, he's working on his pass catching. He's working on a lot of things to make him a better all around back. And I guess it's important in the NFL to be able to evolve. Yeah, my top three would be Christian McCaffrey for all the reasons you mentioned. He's a great all-around running back. He can pretty much put 1,000 yards up, whether it's rushing or receiving. So he just has that ability. And then you talked about Dalvin Cook, how he's another great all-around running back. I've talked about how the offense pretty much runs through Dalvin Cook, uh, and especially when Stephon Diggs left, sort of opened up a larger rushing role for that team and for Dalvin Cook, and he just had a breakout year last year. He even topped his stats from the year before, which was pretty solid. And then for third, I actually have Alvin Kamara. I know some people have him lower just because they don't know his role in the new Saints offense, but I still feel like he can produce. I still feel like he's going to be a solid option. He can pretty much do everything McCaffrey does, just to a lesser degree, but he's still really solid overall. And then Nate, let me get to you for your top three.
I guess for my number one is Christian McCaffrey, mainly because of his upside. I feel like he has the highest upside out of all the running backs in the league so far. So I decided to put him first. I think his 2019 fantasy points numbers was 25.8 per game, and I think he was on pace to kind of eclipse that in 2020 if he didn't get injured. But yeah, so I put him at number one. I put Alvin Kamara at two. I feel like the Saints are gonna like lean into him a little bit more. I think there was a few games where Alvin Kamara didn't start, so if he ends up starting for all of his games, he should have a pretty high upside. And I put Dalvin Cook at number three. Just like you said, the Minnesota offense runs through Dalvin Cook, and he's a pretty reliable running back to have on your team. So yeah, that's my top three.
Yeah, I actually like your point about Alvin Kamara. I know there were some different games where, like, if you mentioned the Denver game where Denver didn't have a quarterback, so the Saints really didn't do much on offense. So you can pretty much write that game off in terms of Kamara's totals. I mean, if all of the games, like you mentioned, he had been playing, I think he could have had higher totals than what he put up last year. So I think that's pretty solid. And then Mete, just getting to you for your next three running backs. Who do you have from four to six?
I have Kamara at four. Like you guys said, I feel like he's going to be carrying a big load now for the Saints now that Breeze is gone. And like I really wanted to put him top three, but the guys above him, I couldn't. But I think he's definitely going to have a great year. And then my fifth running back, I have Saquon Barkley. He's injury prone, but if this guy stays healthy, like he's insane. He can catch passes, he can run. He's a complete package as well. And my sixth running back is Nick Chubb. Uh, Honestly, I think he'd be way higher if the Browns didn't have Kareem Hunt, but since he's there, he's just outside the top five for me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I could make a bold statement in saying that I think that Nick Chubb could compete for the number one overall running back if Kareem Hunt wasn't in Cleveland, just because of how much running and pass catching out of the backfield they do in that offense. They're pretty reliant on both Chubb and Hunt. And yeah, just getting into my top or into my next three, sorry. Yeah, Derrick Henry, I have at number four. I like your analysis on him working on his pass catching, but I guess until I see it incorporated into his workload at an NFL level, I can't put him into the top three for half point PPR. If this was a standard league, I'd probably have him at number one as well. Um, and then for PPR, I'd probably have him around four as well, just because he can rush for over 2,000 in a season, which is pretty great for fantasy, getting over 2,000 yards. But yeah, like you said, it looks like Henry will actually have some upside this coming season if he's able to catch the ball in the backfield. So that's definitely something to look out for. And then I also have Saquon Barkley at number five. I agree that he has upside. I agree that he's also been injury prone. So those are definitely two things that you got to keep in mind as you're drafting this guy. Maybe if you're drafting him in the first round, you take another running back in the second round, just as sort of a security blanket in case he gets hurt, whatnot. But yeah, if he stays healthy for the year, he definitely finishes in the top five. I don't think I have a question about that. And then I also have Nick Chubb at number six. Yeah, his role with Cleveland just warrants him a top six spot in my mind. Yeah, like you said, if for some reason Kareem Hunt gets hurt or whatever, he'd move into my top five, no question. Yeah, he just has the workload, he has the legs, he has the production to sort of justify being there. So yeah, I have Nick Chubb at number six, and then Nate, I'll get to you for your four to six.
So my number four is Derrick Henry as well. Um, I guess I agree with what you guys said. He is the best, I guess, running back in the league, and he does have potential to catch. I don't think it's that he's bad at it. I think it's more just that the way that Tennessee offense works, his job is to kind of punch holes through the line. So they just haven't really asked him to catch that much. So we just never had an opportunity to see what he could do. But I guess if they kind of restructure the offense and try to make some plays where he's pass catching more, that might give him an opportunity to, I guess, catch more. Like, imagine if he was able to get like 1,800 yards or something and then 200 rec yards. That'd be pretty insane. So, yeah, I put him at number four because of that. And fifth, I put Saquon Barkley, mostly because of his potential. He has really high potential, and I think he might have a chance to kind of surpass his 2019 season, maybe, or his 2018 season if he's fully healthy. But of course, the question is, will Saquon Barkley be fully healthy? But I think I'd still put him at number five based on his upside, and I put Nick Chubb at sixth. I was wondering about. I was actually thinking, should I put him lower? Should I put him higher? But I kind of looked at his, I guess, the number of touchdowns he had and the number of games that he played. So he only played 12 games, but he had a touchdown every game he played. So that's pretty crazy. Imagine if he was able to get like maybe 14 touchdowns for the season. That kind of gives him a lot of upside, I think, at that point. But the only thing kind of holding him back from the top five is being able to catch. Not that he can't, but it's kind of a similar situation to Derrick Henry, where his job is to punch holes through the line. So they haven't asked him to catch that much. But yeah, that's why I put him at six.
Yeah, and I mean that's why they have Kareem Hunt. I guess
Mm.
they see Kareem Hunt as being that guy that can just catch the ball out of the backfield and sort of make plays. They also give it a lot to Kareem Hunt in the red zone, which is what hurts Chubb's case for a top five on my list as well. And then Mete, I'll turn it to you for your 7 to 9. Who do you like in that position?
My seventh running back is Austin Eckler. I feel like he might be the best pass catcher as a running back. This guy was 2 years ago. He almost hit 1,000 yards just receiving, and he catches a lot of balls. He caught 54 last year. So if we were doing PPR, I think he'd be higher just due to the fact that he catches a lot of passes. My eighth running back is Aaron Jones. Uh, with Aaron Rodgers getting older, I feel like his role is going to get bigger and bigger every year, and he's pretty great running back. He can catch too. And my ninth running back is Ezekiel Elliott. He had a pretty rough year last year. I feel like he can rebound this year with our offensive line getting healthy. Um, but this is kind of a make or break year for him, I feel like, with Pollard playing nice in his absence last year. So I feel like he's going to have to produce, or he might be gone from the Cowboys next year.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I sort of just going off of what you said. I have Aaron Jones at number 7. You mentioned how his role should increase. I definitely agree with that. With Jamal Williams leaving Green Bay, I think it was a smart decision for Jones to come back. Like you said, he can catch in the backfield. He can pretty much do everything. He can work along the goal line. I know AJ Dillon is there, but he's still developing, and he'll definitely take some reps, but he won't take a lot. Aaron Jones is one of those guys that has the upside to be a top 5 running back. So if you're sitting outside the top 5, if you're late in the first round and you want a guy to take a flyer on that could actually hit and be a top 5 running back, I think Aaron Jones is definitely a guy to look at. So I have him at number 7. I have Austin Eckler at number 8. I agree with you. His pass catching ability is pretty much second to none. Maybe outside of someone like Alvin Kamara or Christian McCaffrey, but that's pretty much it. I mean, he's just so solid. And it's pretty clear that they want him to be the starter this year. It's pretty clear that Justin Herbert is going to rely on him to sort of get out of bad situations when it comes to pressure and all that. So definitely Austin Eckler for me. In half point PPR, catches still do matter. Not as much as PPR, but they still matter. And Austin Eckler is definitely a guy that can get a lot of receiving yards for you in fantasy. And then for number 9, I have Jonathan Taylor. I know people panicked over Marlon Mack coming back to the Indianapolis Colts, but I'm not really panicking over that. I feel like Marlon Mack is sort of going to be a change of pace running back, but Jonathan Taylor is their starter. They leaned into him both in the regular season and in the playoffs. They used a high draft pick on him 2 years ago, so it's clear that they definitely want to use him as the starter going forward. He's pretty much the whole package. He can pretty much break holes through the defense. He can pass catch. He's great in the red zone and as a blocker. So definitely a guy that they want to put out in almost every situation. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jonathan Taylor finishes higher than ninth. But I have him at ninth for now just because we don't know what his role is going to be compared to Marlon Max. But Nate, yeah, let me get to you for your next 3.
So I put Aaron Jones at 7th as well. He's pretty solid and he has really high upside. I was wondering whether I should put him over Nick Chubb, but I decided to kind of put him a little bit lower, mainly because I wasn't sure if his upside would be able to exceed Nick Chubb's this season. But he does have the potential to go up to 18 fantasy points per game. I think that was his 2019 numbers, but he had a crazy amount of targets, and I'm not sure if he's going to have the same amount of targets as in 2019. He did have a little bit lower in 2020, so maybe in 2021 it might be a little kind of like a similar story, just a little bit less than what he got in 2019. And for 8th, I put Austin Eckler for pretty much the same reason as you guys. He gets a lot of rec yards and he has really high upside. His health was the only thing holding him back. He had an injury for a lot of the season, so he wasn't able to play to his potential, but just I guess looking at his reception yards, he had more reception yards than Aaron Jones this season, and he wasn't healthy for the whole season. He only played 10 games, but he got 403 reception yards. So I think as a running back that can catch a lot, that kind of shows how good he is. So I put him at number 8 because of that. And then for ninth, I put Ezekiel Elliott. Um, I think he might have a higher peak than Austin Eckler, but he hasn't really been able to play to his potential lately. I guess I feel like he's usually not at like 100%, and he needs to work on his conditioning a little bit. If his conditioning's really good, we might see him closer to what his peak could be, but we'll have to see. So I put him at ninth because of that.
Yeah, I know last season he showed up a little bit overweight. I know people were talking about that for Elliott. Um, I know definitely when he came into the league, the first few years, conditioning wise, he looked really solid. And in this offense, he was really dominant. He was pretty much a top five running back every year. He can still get to that. They just need to find the proper role for him in the offense. I feel like with Dak Prescott coming back, that's sort of a boost for Elliott. And yeah, I just feel like that he could definitely rebound into next season. But before I get into my next running backs, I'll just get to you, Mete, for your last three. Who else do you like in the top 12?
So at number 10, I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. This guy is playing with Patrick Mahomes, so he's got a huge upside, I think, and he was a rookie last year, so I'm hoping they can use him more this year. If they do, like, he might even be better than the 10th running back. And for number 11, I have Chris Carson. This one might be like a bit weird to everyone, but in my opinion, he's actually really solid. I've had him on my fantasy team for like the last couple of years, and he produces for me. He's good runner, not bad at catching, so I think he can give you top 11 value. And for number 12, I have Josh Jacobs. I think he definitely would have been higher than 12 if the Raiders didn't sign um, Kenyon Drake this year. And so I think Kenyon Drake's going to eat into his snaps. I feel like Drake will be the pass catching running back there. So he's not going to be making a lot of catches, I feel like, this year.
But yeah, for sure. Yeah, you mentioned that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he definitely can grow on last season. I definitely agree with that. I feel like that also with the loss of guys like Sammy Watkins and Le'Veon Bell, that sort of opens up more of the offense for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that could definitely lead to more production. I was talking a little bit earlier about Elliott improving, and yeah, I have Ezekiel Elliott at number 10. I feel like that he can sort of rebound after a poor 2020 season, most of it which didn't have Dak Prescott in the lineup. So with Prescott back healthy this year, I feel like that opens up more work for Derrick Henry. And hopefully with the offensive line improving from last year, that could definitely really help Elliott's stats as well. Because like I said, we know he can be a top five running back when he's at his peak. So definitely look out for that. And at number 11, I have Miles Sanders. And the reason I have Miles Sanders is because of the breakout he experienced with Jalen Hurts as quarterback at the end of last season. If you took him into the fantasy playoffs like I did, you experienced great production from Miles Sanders. Um, it probably helped your team either get close to or winning a fantasy championship. And I feel like that with Jalen Hurts, I know people always talk about, oh, if your quarterback runs, then maybe your running backs aren't as good. But I kind of disagree with that. I feel like if a quarterback rushes a lot, it sort of opens up room for the running backs in a lot of different ways. To get more yards because teams are more distracted with the quarterback. Examples are like Baltimore. Obviously, they have such a strong run game, both with their quarterback and their running backs. You can give more examples than that, but that was just the first one that came to my head. And yeah, I think that the same thing will happen in Philly. They have a new offensive coordinator, so definitely the issue that they had last year. It'll be different. They'll have a new head coach as well. So yeah, I pretty much think that Miles Sanders will definitely return top 12 value. And yeah, I feel like that he's definitely worth taking the reach for. And then at number 12, I have Cam Akers. And the reason why I have him at number 12 is because of how solid he was last season, becoming the starting running back in LA. The Rams always are pretty run heavy. That's what I've noticed in most years. And if Cam Akers takes that lead role there in that run heavy offense, he'll be top 12 at least in my mind. I don't see any other way around it. He was such a solid runner last year, especially the game where he faced the Patriots. I got to watch firsthand him just run all over the defense, pretty much showing why they needed to address their defense. So, yeah, he's a solid running back, and I see him in the top 12 this year. But Nate, let me get to you for your last three.
Sure. I put James Robinson at 10. I had him lower, but I decided to put him higher at 10 mainly because I guess I was just going over some of his stats, and I think he got 16.1 fantasy points per game, and that was with the quarterback that he had on Jacksonville. He gets a lot of rush yards and he gets a lot of reception yards, and depending on how well Trevor Lawrence plays, I guess James Robinson could have even more reception yards. So I feel like that kind of gives him a lot of upside. And I put Jonathan Taylor at 11th. He also has a lot of upside with Carson Wentz going to the Colts. So Jonathan Taylor will be able to increase his reception yards by a lot as well. I think Jonathan Taylor also got over 1,000 rush yards. He had 11 rushing touchdowns, and he got 15.7 fantasy points per game as a rookie. So we should see an increase from Jonathan Taylor. And I put David Montgomery at 12th. I guess I was just going over some of his stats as well, and he got over 1,000 rushing yards. He got 438 reception yards, and that was with the quarterback that he had. So I think that his performance should be around the level that he had in the 2020 season. I think he got 15.9 fantasy points per game, which is very respectable. And I guess the only thing really holding him back is kind of the quarterback. I think Nick Foles is going to be the quarterback on David's team now. So um, I
Or
guess,
Andy Dalton. I think
yeah,
one of those two. Yeah.
yeah. So I guess it'll kind of depend on how well they can throw. I think David Montgomery is a really good catching running back. So we'll have to see how well he does.
Yeah, for sure. I know that he really broke out into his pass catching role last year because Tariq Cohen wasn't healthy. So I guess we'll definitely have to see how much of a workload they give to both of those guys. But yeah, David Montgomery, one of the better runners in the league, pretty underrated. So yeah, that was a good addition to the top 12. And um, I guess some of the guys that you guys mentioned that I didn't have in my top 12, guys like James Robinson. Um, I feel like yeah, he has great upside, especially when Trevor Lawrence gets there. If they decide to stick with James Robinson as their top running back, he should move up draft boards. I think people are just more conservative, myself included, that he's like we don't know his role fully, so that's why we don't have him in the top 12. Um, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I agreed with most of your points, Mete. He should definitely improve on last season. He should be given a bigger role this season. So he can definitely move his way into a top 12 running back role. Chris Carson, solid as well. Um, yeah, he's pretty consistent. That's all I have to say. I know health is one of the things that really comes to mind with Chris Carson. He's got to be able to stay healthy. And I think he's pretty much gotten over his fumbling issues. I know a lot of people talked about that. I think he's sort of pushed through that. This doesn't seem to be as much of an issue now. Um, And then yeah, I don't know if you guys, if there are any other running backs that come to your mind that could maybe push their way into the top 12. I'll start with you, Nate.
I'm just thinking of Antonio Gibson and Joe Mixon. I think Antonio Gibson, he played in 14 games, but he only started in 9. So I guess just from that, I think he's getting a bigger role in the Washington football team this year. So I think that should increase his upside by a lot. I think he got 11 touchdowns, so um, he might be able to get maybe a similar number of touchdowns or even more and increase his rush yards by a bit. And I feel like Joe Mixon, he's potentially top 12, but I think the Bengals O line is kind of it holds basically all the skill positions back. So, um, and until I guess the O line kind of gets better, we won't be able to see his full potential, but he does have some good upside.
Yeah, for sure. And before I just add a couple thoughts on Mete, I'll just get to you. Maybe a couple running backs that come to mind that aren't in the top 12, but you really like them in fantasy.
I actually really liked your point with the running quarterback and Miles Sanders. So I'm thinking maybe he could he could make it into the top 12 with them having a young quarterback like Hurts, or I don't know. I'm hearing they might even draft another quarterback this year. They might lean on him more, and I actually agree with you as well on Cam Akers. He took over as a starter like late into last season, and as soon as he did that, he was like completely going off. So I think he could definitely sneak into the top 12 as well.
Yeah, I know there's another name that not a lot of people have mentioned, and that's DeAndre Swift for the Detroit Lions. Of course, we don't know how the offense is going to run under Dan Campbell, but um, I mean, Jared Goff has always been supported by a strong run game, and I think that could be the same going into this season. DeAndre Swift really broke out last year midway, and he was pretty much a second tier running back most of the season. And he almost pushed his way into the top 12 last year. So I definitely like Swift's upside. And definitely if Detroit decides to really lean into the run game, he could really benefit from that. And I think you guys mostly covered a lot of the other names we were talking about. Mete, you covered Josh Jacobs. And then Nate, obviously, you covered Joe Mixon. He was another guy I was going to bring up. Obviously, his injury history and the Bengals' offensive line just makes a reason for me not to put him in the top 12. He'll definitely have to change that narrative next season if I want to do that. But I think we pretty much covered everything when it comes to, I guess, just the updated landscape of where running backs might sit on a fantasy draft board. So definitely thanks for that, guys. And that's going to be the end of Fanatics Football this week. Make sure you check us out on Instagram at FanFan Podcast and on Twitter with the same handle. And make sure you sub to us on YouTube. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And thanks again, guys. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.